Hello everyone, Bag here, and this is Rin Tohsaka. She is a 5-star Quantum Erudition unit who primarily serves as a support for Archer. Here's a 9-minute rundown of everything you need to know about how to use her on your account. Her kit revolves around her stacking resource, Gem Energy, which can be stacked infinitely. She gains 1 stack whenever the team consumes or generates SP, she starts combat with 30, and gets a total of 13 from her ultimate, with her ultimate being an AoE hit with a single target focus scaling that also applies a 20% vulnerability debuff while recovering 1 SP. If Rin skills with more than 15 Gem Energy or 7 SP, then her weak single target skill gets enhanced, becoming the ability that consumes her Gem Energy stacks, with 1 AoE hit followed by 1 bounce per 3 consumed Gem Energy, with a single skill consuming up to 99 total Gem Energy. She also generates extra Gem Energy for this enhanced skill by consuming any SP over 2 until 2 remains, turning each consumed skill point into a total of 3 Gem Energy that then get added into the sent out enhanced skill. Rin also has a unique joint attack with Archer, where when Archer skills, if it's his 5th skill, or if he has 3 or less SP, then he and Rin send out a powerful AoE follow-up attack that also recovers 4 SP. This also can proc Archer's own follow-ups since it involves an ally attacking an enemy. This joint attack can only be sent out once per Rin's turn, meaning you want to use it on every Archer turn if possible. Finally, Rin provides 150% attack and 15 res pen to herself and Archer if he's on the team, as well as 70 crit damage to any ally that generates or spends SP. She also increases the SP cap by another 2, so 11 total with Archer and Sparkle, and she also gains a 3-turn 20% speed buff after entering combat or after her enhanced skill. Her minor traces give attack, crit damage, and damage percent, and for leveling priority, her ultimate and talent determine her buffing, while her skills the brunt of her personal damage. Playing Rin is rather simple. Her damage is not important enough to prioritize over Archer's, so he takes priority in SP consumption. Spamming basics on Rin, then, is entirely fine, since her enhanced skill scales basically directly with the amount of Gem Energy that she stores, so 2 small enhanced skills basically equals 1 big one. This also makes her a bit like Cypher, where you can store her ramp up to have a larger nuke when it matters. Preferably, we enhance skill either when things line up so there isn't any SP for her to consume, or if there's enough of an SP surplus to let her consume a little SP as a treat. The other goal is to upkeep Rin's 3-turn speed buff, so planning out turns for her to enhance skill can also be a factor with your SP usage. Just keep in mind that, again, Archer's damage is by far the priority, and the speed buff might not matter if it isn't impacting her turn count and or her getting lapped by Sparkle. With the joint attack giving 4 SP per Archer's turn, this means he is guaranteed 3 skills, since SP will rarely drop below 2 by his turn start, especially when Rin's enhanced skill stops at 2 SP. Even without Archer's E1 getting him to 4 skills, 5 skills per turn should be easily achievable, assuming external SP help from his follow-ups, Sparkle, Rin's basic and ults, and the sustain helping. These frequent AoE joint attacks also frees up Archer from being purely single target, letting him more easily pick off enemies while committing arrows and ults to larger health bars. Basicking with Rin does mean that she has a very slow energy rotation, meaning you have to be careful on when you ult as to effectively apply her vuln debuff. Again, her damage does matter, but it is secondary in terms of how she amps, so holding onto her ult to better apply its debuff is perfectly valid if the situation calls for it. Rin also has to keep in mind her position next to Sparkle. Depending on your speed tuning, Rin might slowly or quickly get lapped, leading to Archer turns without her joint attack. This can also very easily happen on MOC wave switch if Archer ends the first wave, which he probably will. You can solve this by making Rin faster than your Sparkle, but not only is that much harder to build, especially if your Sparkle is built very fast, but this also leads to a much more awkward time using Rin's skill, since she would be skilling right before Archer's turn instead of right after, meaning SP would be much more difficult to avoid consuming with her. Going before Archer does let her more easily apply her vuln debuff before his turn though, and going faster lets Sparkle use DDD on Archer's turn after his first arrow without wasting DDD on Rin, so either way has its merits to it. So in all, basic by default, skill when you can for the damage and speed buff, ult mainly for its debuff, and let Archer go wild with his oodles and oodles of free SP. Main DPS Rin still plays around her Gem Energy, but this time she is supported by the team for her big nukes, meaning aligning buffs and debuffs for her single big hit of damage is paramount, and in general she will be confined into scenarios that favor her infrequent bursts of bounce attacks, meaning ironically she won't be the best carry in pure fiction. This playstyle really gets activated at E1, which we will talk about later. A plug to subscribe! Wow! Thank you so much for 50k subs. A Gilgamesh videos coming soon. Anyways, back to the vid. For gearing, Genius, Scholar, and Duke are the general best options for damage. They should all perform around the same, so it really comes down to what sets you have for her to use with the stats that she wants, but Genius is my preferred recommendation, no bias. 2-piece speed is also there if you need it for her speed tuning, and Diviner can be a good middle ground in giving 6% speed and some hefty crit at 160 speed if you're reaching that. Mastersmith is great in theory, but you can only use it with Anox's signature, as it's the only light cone that directly fulfills the requirement of applying Death Shred to an enemy directly. Her own signature does doesn't do this. For Planars, you generally go a support set, with City as a standout since her joint attack does count as a follow-up, although with this you do lose out on 5% ER. For stats, Crit Body, Speed Boots, Quantum Over Attack Orb, and ER generally over Attack Rope, unless if ER isn't actually getting you an extra ult, in which case you can just go attack. The main stat benchmark, beyond a decent crit ratio, is her speed. Being faster or slower than Sparkle comes with its own ups and downs, as we briefly mentioned in the playstyle section, but generally just try to get close to Sparkle's speed to not be lapped, or just as fast as you feasibly can if your Sparkle is on a 200 effective speed build. Usually, you can just default to being around 160 speed in combat, meaning gearing for around 140, assuming you can get consistent uptime of a speed buff, but you can go slower or faster if needed. The general rule of thumb is the longer the fight goes, the closer Rin needs to be to Sparkle speed to not get lapped. And again, lapping isn't the end of the world, but if you can avoid it by speed tuning, then definitely do so. For main DPS, there's not really much different besides attack rope and boots, with really no need to build speed on her, as well as running preferably Tengoku, but also Rudlin can work for her Planars. For light cones, Make the World Clamor gives her an easier turn 1 ult, which then expedites any ult rotation afterwards. Calculus can situationally give some speed if you need it, and the Herta and the Noxasigs get a shoutout for recovering extra SP and providing energy and some depth shred respectively. Her signature gives her a decent bump in damage while providing 20 depth shred to the team. This is not needed for her to do her job at all, but it is just a pile of raw stats if you want it. It obviously gets better if you're depth shred stacking, which is achievable with the Quantum set, Sparkle E2, and if you're going well or Mortonax Sustainless. It's a better damage jump compared to any single piece of early Archer investment, besides like Sparkle E2, so prioritize it if you want to go further into Archer's teams, but you again by no means need it, especially if you have other premium signatures to give her. For her own damage, without her sig, the Herta sig, or the Battle Pass option, pickings are a bit slim, so just use whatever passive you can proc, so usually Cosmos or either Breakfast or Genius's Repose. For teams, she has two. First, she is made for Archer, where she is used alongside Sparkle, and then either a sustainless option or a sustain. Go figure. Dipped is the default, but Ho-Ho can make Rin and Sparkle's tight energy rotations feel much better, which might end up mattering. You can run Archer without Sparkle, but this is not recommended if you can prevent it. Rin is half of the whole that makes Archer into a top tier carry. For Rin main DPS, Sparkle is still a top level priority, with Saridra as a second level top priority. From there, we are preferably going sustainless to make the most of her nukes, so Mortonax, Well, or RMC are preferred, or Sunday can also be great for expediting peerage and gaining gem energy faster through her ultimate, but if you don't want to deal with this, then any sustain will do. Finally, for Eidolons, her E1 is mainly for carry Rin, giving an equivalent amount of Shadow Gem equal to any consumed gem energy when consuming 30 or more. This Shadow energy is used in her next enhanced skill in place of regular gem energy, meaning she's able to double dip while not consuming SP. This is the difference maker to make main DPS Rin worthwhile, letting her set up big charges of gem energy nukes that can then be stored for consecutive nukes, which can then be further extended by playing around Saridra's peerage. If you want to make her into a DPS, which is more of a for fun thing to do as it is just less worth it as opposed to putting more investment into an Archer team, then E1 is not required, but it is recommended. But if you don't want to make her into a carry, then honestly just stick to her S1 if anything at all. Her E2 is a boost to the teams and her own skill damage. It's a nice boost for both of her playstyles, but while it is great for making her main DPS playstyle that much more enticing, it's not recommended to spend all the way to get here for her Archer team, with how little her E1 helps for what the standards of an E1 should do. Her E4 doubles her crit damage stacking for herself, so 70 crit damage. It's something but nothing impressive, while her E6 gives 20 respan and an extra turn and 24 gem energy every ult. Extra turns are the bread and butter for good Eidolons, so again for main DPS Rin, this is solid if not way too expensive to actually be worthwhile, but again for her main role in supporting Archer, none of her Eidolons besides E2 really do much of anything too notable. And that's everything. Going to the channel member corner, we have Banana Bite and Louie as our next new channel members, as well as Abstin as our next new 6-month member. Thank you so much for your support as always, and with that, a Gilgamesh video is coming in the next week. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye!